The contemporary world that we live in is built by farmers. It's a farmer's mindset. Things are stationary. Everyone's got their little fucking homestead. The hunter's brain is really not wired to fit in to the way the modern world is constructed. And that's why we see a lot of motherfuckers with ADHD and kind of a tailspin and some of these other mental defects that you could call them, because they just don't fucking fit in with the way the modern world is set up. And growing up, I knew from a very early age, very early on, I had a sensibility about me and I had a perception that I was not designed for the world that we live in whatsoever. I was not molded to be cast in the system that was laid before me. School, for me, was the most torturous place you could have fucking dropped me off to. I would have rather have been fucking paradropped into the Amazonian fucking rainforest with no tools. It was absolute torture. Even just the aesthetic I'm talking real early on, elementary school. You're in a fucking concrete compound. You know what I mean? You're basically sitting in a cinder block. And these schools, the aesthetics are so fucking disgusting. It's something out of brutalist dystopian architecture. And if you think this wasn't done intentionally, you're fucking crazy. You're fucking crazy. Everything from the desks, the fucking cheap plastic, the fucking casing under the fucking fake plywood on the fucking desks. Just the whole fucking thing. You're sitting in a fucking room under fluorescent light. It was always just a fucking disgraceful place to be. I always felt absolute torture in my soul when I was forced to sit in a fucking classroom. And the first giveaway that there was some fucking authoritative wizardry going on to basically essentially leech and reave the soul out of young up and coming learners was the first like real touch of grace that kind of gave away the jig. And things were never the same for me after I saw that. Even as a young boy coming up, think about the existential dread of having to raise your hand and ask a fucking stranger to go take a piss. Like things at that level. If you were sitting in a classroom when you were a young boy and that didn't rub you the wrong way, then you were just built to be a cog in the fucking machine for sure. Like that was the first giveaway. The existential dread of having to raise your hand and basically beg and plead to ask to leave the fucking classroom to take a piss. Like what the fuck is that? That is an absolute fucking horror show. And if that didn't ignite something in you as a young boy, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. I don't know what to tell you, but for me, that was like the first glimmer of proof that there was a sleight of hand going on. Like they're trying to essentially fucking extinguish sparks of genius from an early age. They're trying to get you to submit. Every fucking force, every institution has joined allegiances, and they are literally in lockstep, in unison, designed to basically fucking smash outliers, just fucking crush you in every which way possible, through demoralization, through dehumanization. That is fucking dehumanizing. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That is 100% dehumanizing. To make a fucking kid have to ask to take a piss. That's fucking wild. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's an absurd concept. And there's so many other little nuances to that. But like look at the fucking schoolyard. I mean, like I said, you're just in a barrier. You're in a fucking prison. You know what I mean? From the steel gates that lock you in. Some of you motherfuckers probably had barbed wire layering the outskirts of the fucking campus. The quad is just a hunk of fucking concrete. It's just a stucco fucking concrete structure that you're stuck in all fucking day long. which is conductive to heat. Heat doesn't dissipate. It's fucking hot. It's muggy. There's no fucking fresh air. You're seated. You're in a fucking submissive defensive position when people are fucking scolding you or fucking trying to impart knowledge. The whole thing makes zero sense biologically. Biologically, you're just getting fucking hammered. You know what I mean? Like, you're learning to be just a submissive little fucking obedient employee. Like, that's what the whole system is. So from a very early age, I had a massive conflict with this whole setup. It just never rubbed me the right way. I would gnash my teeth and thrash my fucking tail to do anything to get the fuck out of it. Now, what happens is when you go through a hellish experience in school, you're gonna start to develop a lot of personality quirks to defend against that. Because if you have fire in your soul, and you would know by now, by like the age of like 7 or 8, if you have that fire in your soul, you know that you're just gonna constantly fucking resist. But the thing is, it's so difficult. It's so tough to see that there's another possibility out there. That's the problem. Is like you're looking through a kaleidoscope and your world is so microscopic because you have your parents enforcing this. They're the ones dropping you off at school. They're the ones kind of reinforcing the system on you. And you're just very trapped because you have no power as a youngster. And that's the real battleground, because you just don't have any authority. You have no agency. You have no power. You have no control over anything. You're just a fucking cork bobbing on the ocean, and you're pretty much going to have to do what people tell you to do. You know what I mean? That's why when parents tell you, enjoy being a kid, because when you get older, you're going to have responsibility. That's one of the greatest lies ever told. Being a kid is horrifying. You have zero fucking power. Who the fuck wants to be a kid forever? It's the fucking worst position to be in. You know what I mean? The older you get, at least you can sharpen your talons and you can fucking flash some fangs every now and then and sort of carve out some territory for yourself. You don't have that opportunity when you're a youngster. So that whole fucking Peter Pan thing of enjoy it while you're young because you're free, nonsense. Nonsense. That's a fucking psyop. So, you know, we move along, we go into high school, and you're still sort of just stuck in this rigmarole. You feel like you've pissed away the first 15 years of your life learning bullshit skills that aren't going to do a goddamn thing for you. So it's like by the time you're 18 in America, you kind of get the realization that you've pissed away the first 18 years of your life. Like, life really does not begin for an American man, which explains the lack of maturity, and it explains why everybody's so far behind emotionally, is because life really doesn't begin until you get out of school, because you basically pissed away the first 18 years of your life with no agency. The hunter's brain is completely fucking squashed. If you want to seek opportunity, you really can't. So you're just basically shackled. You're shackled. You're in a fucking straitjacket for the first 18 years, and you just got to brave it, and you got to cope with it, and you got to survive it. And it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Unless you have that farmer's brain, which most people do, which is the slow and steady incremental improvement life. Now, slow and steady incremental improvement life for me, that doesn't work. That doesn't work because my brain is geared and it's wired to turn over every motherfucking rock for opportunity, to turn over every stone, to brave my own path, to be at the tip of the spear, to be a fucking firebrand, to be a trailblazer. That's always been my shtick. My shtick was I always wanted to push the human limits and see how far I could go on my own. On my own. I was always autodidactic. You know, when I was little, I was forced into taking a lot of lessons. I tried to learn guitar. I tried to learn bass. And I hated it. I couldn't even learn guitar because when the teacher would sit in front of me and show me how to play guitar, I felt way too constrained and restricted. You know what I mean? Four strings. And I understand that you can concoct an infinitesimal amount of music out of those four strings, but it just felt too restricted for me. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't make sense. I'm not wired that way. So anytime I would go into a lesson or try to learn how to shoot hoops or fucking swing a baseball bat, get any kind of coaching, I was extremely defiant of any kind of technique. I learned every fucking technique, every sport I ever did. I had to figure it out on my own. Didn't want a coach, didn't want any authority. Let me fucking dive in and let me figure it the fuck out. And so when I got into high school, my home life was so brutal. I hated coming home from school every day because despite the fact that I did grow up in an affluent home, I had parents who reinforced the system, and they were buyers. They really, really bought into the idea that if you want to be somebody, you got to get a college degree. You got to fucking go through the system. You got to slog away. Every day, incremental, step by step. And that shit never, ever jived with me for even a millisecond. And no matter what they did, no matter how hard they try to bury me underground, I would grow. I would grow. You know, there's just some seeds that you can't bury. There's some spirits that are so hardened and callous that there's really no genetic programming that you can put on them that's not going to make them fucking fight back. In fact, my theory is that there are some genetic specimens that if you put them under enough pressure and enough stress and enough strain, they're actually going to blossom even harder than they would have been if you had just left them alone. And in my case, this seems to be the truth. When I was in high school, the depression of waking up every morning and having to go to the classroom another day, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. It was breaking me because I knew I was wasting so much fucking time. I had zero interest. But here's the thing. I was a bad student, but I was a big learner. So anything that I wanted to learn on my own, I could fucking grasp concepts so fast. I could teach myself anything, but I couldn't sit in a fucking algebra class. I just couldn't do it. I'd fucking fall asleep. My eyes would be closing. I'd purposely fucking sabotage my grades. They didn't know what to do with me. My parents didn't know what to do with me. They thought, they told me I was lazy. They told me I was lazy because they didn't have the tools. They didn't have the skill set. They didn't have the mental cognition to understand that they just had a child that just wasn't built for this shit. And so what they did is they reinforced it through intense, draconian style punishment. Fucking basically corporal punishment. When I wouldn't behave in a way that was in alignment with the rules, I would just get fucking grounded every fucking day. I was always getting in trouble. And I had a younger brother, and I would just take the heat for everything. So I was just getting fucking just berated and fucking lambasted every fucking day of my life. It never ended. It never ended. I'm always in some kind of trouble for talking back, thinking a different way. Always busted, always grounded, can't go out, cars being taken away, can't fucking go out on a Friday night, getting my phone fucking taken away, whatever the fuck it was. I was always getting grounded. And this created, obviously, a force of nature that was brewing. You know what I mean? They had no idea that what they were doing is they were brewing a specimen who was eventually gonna fucking break out of that local minima. You know what I mean? Because that local minima is brutal. And like I said, when you're 15, 16 years old and you're in high school, you don't really understand the context of reality. You don't really understand that there's a massive, massive world out there where anything is possible. And that's the problem, is it's very easy to be myopic, and it's very easy to let that worldview just cave in upon you and surrender, because everywhere you turn, you got everyone fucking reinforcing this and shoving it down your throat that you're supposed to just do things the proper way. But there is no proper way of doing things. That's not a real thing. There's no fucking proper way of doing things. And so what happens is in this modern landscape, you often find that parents will want things for you that you don't want for yourself. And you have to deconstruct this. You have to deconstruct this, and you have to see the insanity in that. You have to see the insanity in ever wanting something for someone that they don't want for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, that makes zero sense. Like, I have friends that have turned into losers. I can't want them to fucking change more than they want to change themselves. How the fuck does that mechanism even work? It doesn't. It doesn't. That's not love. That's pure fucking selfishness. That's pure selfishness because if the lifestyle, look, first of all, you have to understand every lifestyle is profitable. Every lifestyle that you choose is profitable. I do not believe that anyone has chosen to take an unprofitable lifestyle. Even the lazy, loitering motherfucker on the couch all day has chosen the path of least resistance for himself. He's figuring out a way to fucking survive. So there's no such thing as any kind of adaptation. Everybody on earth, even the biggest fucking losers, are choosing a path for themselves that has benefits and profit, or they wouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Because the human organism is parsimonious. It's very parsimonious and it's very economical with its resources. And it will defend you. Your body will defend any viewpoint that you decide to take. Because the body is that clever and it's that creative. It will do that for you. And that's what I talk about when I'm telling you that what happens is people go on autopilot because they don't understand that they've been bombarded. They've been bombarded by schools, by hospitals, by doctors, by authority figures, by parents who maybe their intentions are well-meaning. Maybe they are. But that's motherfucking irrelevant when you have a soul that's on fire and you're trying to fucking make something of yourself. Your problems when you are trying to reinvent yourself are supposed to be incomprehensible. Do you understand? They are supposed to, no one is supposed to understand the pain that you're going through because it's unique to you. Nobody's supposed to have a fucking hold on that shit. Nobody. You know? And so my home life was so wretched. It was so cold because there was nothing for me there. And so it would just be me grinding my antlers against my family members every fucking day. My antlers are clashing up against theirs. And it was like eventually something was going to fucking break. So when I was in high school, when I would get home from school, my outlet was actually basketball. And I would just go into the gym with my brother and I would fucking practice 5 or 6 hours a day. And I developed a wicked fucking jump shot. Wicked. I mean, this thing was fucking filthy. And then I started playing high school basketball and I started torching and just fucking igniting motherfuckers because it was the only outlet that I had. The only outlet that I had no freedom. Everyone was pushing on me. Everyone's telling me, be quiet, sit down, learn, fucking get good grades. I didn't want any of that. So I'm like 15 years old and I'm like, I need to compete in a local arena. I need to find something. I don't give a fuck how trivial or how fucking basic it is. I don't care how facile it is. I need to get myself in some kind of competitive environment to rise rank. I need to fucking prove myself. I need to fucking show my talent in some fucking form or capacity, some shape or form, because I'm just being fucking smashed every day. I'm being smashed to pieces. No one understands that I don't fucking want to be here. I don't want to be going to class. No one knows what to do. So I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to fucking start fucking imposing my will in an arena where it makes sense. So then I started to find that through athletics and through shooting hoops in the gym and just getting real good. I mean, I was a fanatic. I was obsessed with the game. I would fucking practice every fucking day. And then I would go home and my mom would be like, you're fucking lazy. You don't want to work. You don't want to go to school. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, how the fuck am I lazy? I'm getting up at 5 a.m. before school even starts. And I'm running 2 miles in the street. And then I come home and I had a little fucking weight bench. I'm fucking bench pressing. I'm working out. I'm doing bodybuilding style workouts when I'm 15 motherfucking years old. There's nothing lazy about me. It's the opposite. I'm just disenchanted and I'm disenfranchised by a system who doesn't cater to motherfuckers who want to build their own path. It's that simple. But it's very easy because when you're a kid, you are very impressionable by your parents. You're impressionable. And you want to make them proud. But there was just something in me that couldn't fucking accept it. So when I would step onto that court, it was the only fucking outlet in my life where I could actually impose my will and see what it was like to fucking break other motherfuckers down. You know what I mean? Like if you've been in athletics, you know the high, you know the euphoria of snapping someone's ankles on a basketball court and nailing a fucking three and swishing it. And just watching your opponent slowly be fucking worn down and ground down and lose their morale. Like, you know what that's like over the course of a full pickup basketball game. You know what I'm saying? You're just breaking ankles. You're fucking in the zone. I mean, I was unconscious. I was unconscious at times. I was just on a fucking heater, on a fucking tear. I couldn't miss. I'm just nailing shots from everywhere. And I'm channeling the fury and I'm channeling the fucking deep anger that I have at home where I'm not getting any support. I ain't getting any love. So I'm going on the basketball court and I'm just torching motherfuckers and I have a chip on my shoulder and I am a sore fucking loser. When I would lose or there was a good defender on me who would stuff me and it was hard to get by, I would absolutely fucking come unglued. I was so fucking frustrated. And I knew from an early age that I had that competitive spirit. I hated it. I was the biggest fucking poor sport you've probably ever witnessed in your life. When I'd play video games with someone, like one of my fucking friends from school, and they'd be whooping me, I would just go fucking rip the fucking power cord out before they could officially beat me. I mean, I was just absolutely hell-bent competitive. And when I did anything recreationally, I treated it very seriously. I took it personal. Like when I played basketball with my friends, I didn't know who the fuck you were on the court. We can shake hands afterwards and be boys, but while we're competing, I don't know who the fuck you are. I just take it personal that you think you can beat me. And I'm going to fucking come at you with every fucking thing I have when we compete. And like I said, we can shake hands afterwards. But that was the kind of spirit that I had in me my whole fucking life. And I finally found an outlet to channel it properly. You know what I mean? So it's like these little tiny things that happen in your life. You don't realize till way later on that shit was saving my life because I was being suffocated at home. I was being suffocated. And so finally I found an outlet where all of a sudden I'm getting fucking respect because I'm fucking good. I'm talented. And I'm in there every day fucking training, sweating my ass off, working on my jumper. I was a lefty, so I was hard to guard, et cetera, et cetera. So you see where I'm going with that. And then it got to the point where my mom eventually kind of lost patience. She lost her cool. She couldn't figure out why my grades were so bad. And she forced me to go to therapy. And this is, I think, when I was like 14. So she drags me into a therapist's office and she's like, we need to have like an intervention. We need some kind of mediation to figure out how to get you enthusiastic about school and how to get you on the right track. But keep in mind, I already knew I was on the right track. I already knew I was on the right track, but I was only 14. So I didn't really have any proof in the pudding. I didn't really have any fucking way of expressing that. I just knew it internally. So she drags me to a therapist one day, and I'll never forget this. The therapist. So she tells me to go to she tells me to meet her at the therapist office, which was literally 5-minute walk from my house down the street. So I walked to the office at a certain time and I noticed that my mom's car was there. And I was like, this is fucking weird. So I walk into the lobby and I see my mom come out of the office where I'm supposed to sit down for therapy. And she's like, I was like, what's going on? And she was like, I just did an hour session to kind of set the tone, right? Now, as a youngster who's already been through the fucking gauntlet with authority figures in school that are fake, a ton of fucking, pressure at home with people fucking telling me what to do and telling me how to do things correctly, I was already very skeptical, very, very skeptical of any kind of authority. So when she brought me into that office and she had told me that she had already done an hour session, but this was the first time I was supposed to meet the therapist, I took a huge affront to that. I felt like my trust was broken. And so when I went into the therapist's office, I sat down and I'm only 14 and I told the therapist, I said, listen, I cannot go any further with this. I said, I cannot have you as my therapist. And the lady said, why? And I said, because the integrity has already been fucking ruined. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, my mom just came in here and already gave you an oil painting. She came in here before me and already gave you some kind of bias by injecting her perspective into the mix. And I said, the whole thing is fucking corrupted. It's corrupted. There's no way I can have an impartial session with you going forward. You are always, the foundation is now built on zero integrity because you're always going to have a colored perspective based on what she told you. And I didn't think that was fair. I didn't think it was fair to shove me in a fucking position where now I have to battle against a perspective that was already embedded in the therapist's mind. And I just remember the therapist, my mom was sitting there when I said all this, and the therapist looked at her and she fucking shook her head and kind of like put her hands up and she was like, I kind of get it. She was like, he's smart. That's what she said to my mom. And I left office and I didn't go through with the therapy. But you see my point here? My point here is that it gets to a point where when you're trying to live the way that you want to live, especially as a youngster, and no one is supporting you, you develop really, really good instincts for manipulation. Because I felt like that was a complete fucking manipulative move. Like, you're going to throw me into a situation where there's already a bias that's been implanted. Fuck that. If I'm going to talk to a therapist at all, it's going to be on brand new fucking terms. It's going to be mano y mano. It's going to be me on you. You know what I mean? And so I just took that as a very, very affronting, insulting fucking thing. And so those instincts were quickening and those instincts were sharpening as I kept going through this journey. You know what I mean? And then the other huge breach of trust, and I know a lot of you can probably relate to this on some level, is I remember being picked up from school one day in high school by my mom, and she had a fucking, literally like a costume, like a fucking wardrobe sitting in like a plastic wrapping. And I was like, what is this? And she was like, I got you a job. And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, I got you a job at the grocery store. You're going to be a fucking bagger. And I was like, what? I didn't fucking agree to this. And she was like, yeah, you're going to do this. You're going to save up money. You're going to buy a car. I'm going to match half of the car, etc. And she was like, yeah, working jobs that you don't like builds character. You know what I mean? Like, I could do a 2-hour spaces on how bullshit that is. But my point is I was constantly being thrown into shit that I didn't want to do. And let me tell you something. The existential dread that I felt when I had to put on that fucking outfit. This was when I had this is when you could get work permits in America when you were like 15 and a half. I wasn't even old enough to drive. And I was forced to work this job. And this grocery store, it was Vons, is the most hideous fucking place on earth. It's worse than the DMV. It's soulless, lifeless people hobbling around that are fucking using coupons and shit. And I literally felt like I was in Arkham Asylum. I was in fucking Arkham Asylum. I'm just like, can someone please just fucking anesthetize me? Because this is fucking insane. I'm working like 40 hours a week, and I'm not even joking at the time. I want to say minimum wage was like $7.50. It was absurd. My paychecks were like $200 for a full fucking week of work. And I'm just in there, and I'm in there every day after school. I had to go to this job, and I'm just like, there has to be more to life than this. There's no fucking way. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that this is the only path in life. There's just no fucking way. And it was just bloody torture. I felt like I was on a torture rack. And I knew I had to go. I knew I had to fucking go. I knew I had to leave the nest. I had to get the fuck out of this house, out of this space, and take full responsibility for my life as soon as possible. And those of you who've been on SoundCloud and have heard my old origin story from about 2 years ago, you know that at 17, I bounced. I let everything fucking burn and die and rot, and I went and embarked on my own fucking life and started to express myself the way I wanted to motherfucking express myself. And it was the harshest, most intense experience that I've ever gone through, but it was the most uplifting as well. It was like a benediction. You know what I mean? Like, I could finally fucking start taking the shots that I wanted to take and fucking be responsible for that. And that's all I ever wanted. All I ever wanted was the authority to just run my own life. And please, like, I will deal with the consequences for every decision that I make. That's not a problem. But I just need the freedom and I need the opportunity to do that. I need the fucking freedom and opportunity to do that. And, you know, we didn't have a male figure in the house, me and my younger brother. I raised him. Me and him would get into fist fights all the time on the basketball court because I just had this fucking chip on my shoulder. If he would fucking defend me well or block me, I'd start talking shit. Me and him got into a ton. Me and my brother almost put each other in the hospital several times before the age of 18. Like, I remember throwing him through a bush. I threw him through my neighbor's bush in a fight on the court. And literally 3 years later, you could still see the silhouette cut out from where I threw his body through the bush. It never grew back. It was insane. And we would just we'd give each other fucking bloody noses, fucking just fuck each other up all the time. And so it's like the whole fucking household was fucking imploding. You know what I mean? It was fucking